Don't panic before the JLPT. I'm Tara from Nihongo no Mori, and this is an N4 grammar summary. Here we go. I love Yuka Sensei's videos. Wish they had N1 level. Wait, they have N1, 2, and 3 on the Nihongo no Mori app? And at nihongonomori.com? For just 1,480 yen a month, I can see all of them?
電話お願いします。
I'm not here.
いやいや、対応お願いします。
No, I don't know how to answer the phone, I just can't. There's videos for that too? There's even Kansai Ben. What have I been doing with my life?
それより電話。
Study now. Talk later. Mitai. So this is looks like something, right? So it looks like a noun, or it seems to be the case, and then you would add a verb. So we have ohime-sama mitai desu. So this is you look like a princess, right? So in this case we have noun mitai desu. Here we have mise wa shimatteru mitai desu. So we have a sort of like clause, like part of a sentence that ends with a verb in the plain form connected to mitai desu, right? So mise wa shimatteru mitai desu. It looks like the shop is closed. So desu. So this is looks like something again, but this is often used with adjectives, or when it's used with verbs, it'll be used with the mas form, right? So stem form. We drop mas, such as here ochimasu, becomes ochi, and then add so. So here we have ureshisou desu. They look happy. So here you can see that we cut off the I that would go at the end of ureshi, so now it's just ureshisou desu. And then here we have happa ga ki kara ochisou desu. The leaf looks like it'll fall from the tree, right? So when we use it with a verb like this, it means like it seems like something is about to happen based on my observation. Da so desu. Now, the reason that we have the da here is to just show the difference between the previous so and this so. But this da will come in the case of nouns and na adjectives, but in the case of e adjectives and verbs, it'll just be the plain form of those. So it'll be iso or ruso. So this so means I heard or apparently. It's a way of like quoting somebody sort of indirectly. It's like hearsay. It's like, oh, I heard that Jimmy's quitting his job. You know, it's like Jimmy didn't tell me that, but maybe, you know, I heard it from a friend, or maybe he told me, but I'm not using his exact words. So here we have Takeshi-san wa ashita yasumu tsumori da sou desu. So apparently Takeshi won't be here tomorrow. So here we have tsumori, which we learned means somebody's planning to do something. They have an intent on something. And since this usually conjugates to tsumori desu, here we get da. Tsumori da sou desu. So apparently Takeshi won't be here tomorrow. He's planning to take the day off. Tanaka-san wa shigoto wo yameru sou desu. So I heard Mr. Tanaka is quitting, right? So Mr. Tanaka will quit, right? Yameru. And then we add that plain verb with so to get I heard he's quitting. Yo desu. It seems like, or something seems to be the case. So this is again based on observation, based on what I can see here, based on what reasonably one might be able to assume. This is what appears to be the case. And so here we have kyou no tenki wa natsu no you desu. So here you can see our meishi natsu, our noun, is natsu no you desu. So when we have a noun with yo, it's going to be noun no you desu. It feels like summer today, right? So we are saying that even though, you know, maybe it's not summer, like maybe it's spring, or maybe it's just a really warm day of fall, maybe, we're saying that because of the weather today, it feels like it's summer. And then here we have Ueda-kun ga okureteiru you desu. So this is, it seems that Ueda is running late, right? So Ueda is running late. Ueda-kun ga okureteiru, right? He's running late. That's the state of being late. And then we add that plain form to yo to get it seems that he is running late based on the fact that he's not here yet. Hazu or hazu desu. So this means that something should be the case or is supposed to be the case based on my previous knowledge, right? So maybe somebody told me, hey, Monday is a day off. So that's why I'm able to say, 今週の月曜日は休みのはずです. Monday is supposed to be a day off. So what's happening here is we have the noun yasumi, right, day off, and then we have no hazu desu. When we have the na adjective, for example, it'll be na adjective na hazu desu. Like genki na hazu desu, right? So he should be healthy based on what I heard last week or something like that. Or for e adjectives, it would just be ii hazu desu. And then for verbs, it'll be the plain form. So it'll be like 食べたはずです or 飲めるはずです かもしれない So this is probably. You may also see it as かもしれないです or かもしれません Or in very casual speech, you might just hear かも So this means probably, and it's like you're making a guess. You're saying, oh, this is probably what's happening. You have here, 渋滞でアインさんが遅れるかもしれないです. Ain will probably be late because of traffic, right? So we know that traffic is happening and we know she isn't here yet. So probably she's going to be late because of that traffic. 遅れるかもしれないです. あげる. So this is to give. This is when we, the speaker, give to somebody else, or it's when somebody gives to somebody and we have no relationship to it. So here we have 花を彼女にあげる. So I will give flowers to my girlfriend, right? 彼女にあげる. So I give to her. And what do I give? I give her flowers. くれる. So this is give to me, the speaker, or give to somebody in my close circle, like my sister, or somebody who, if you gave it to them, I would also feel grateful for it. So here we have 彼氏が私に花をくれた. So my boyfriend gave me flowers, right? So 私に to me, flowers. And who gave it? Boyfriend did. もらう. So this is to receive. So I received or someone received. If there's no subject, like here you can see we put 私は in parentheses. So like if you just block this part out and we just say 彼氏に花をもらった. And there's no subject that you're talking about receiving it, it's implied that I received it, the speaker received it. But you could also say, 花ちゃんが彼氏に花をもらった. And that would be Hannah received flowers from her boyfriend. So, right, so we have I received flowers from my boyfriend. So it's, if it's me, we can omit this. But basically, it's whoever received is the topic of the sentence, right? So it'll be like, 何々は. And then 彼氏に. So here it's who did we receive from? We received from me, the boyfriend, right? Because usually when we're doing things that involve interacting with people, doing things to people, getting things from people, we like to use that particle ni. And then what did we receive? We received flowers. 手あげる. So this is using that same to give, like I give to someone, verb from before, but we're attaching it to the te form of a verb. So in this case, it'll mean that I do for somebody, or somebody does for somebody else. So here we have 妻に料理してあげる. I'll cook for my wife, right? So since we're saying してあげる, it means I'm doing it for somebody else. And who am I doing it for? I'm doing it for my wife. てくれる. So this is the same as the くれる that we saw before, which is give to me, or give to somebody in my circle. And since we're using it with the te form of a verb, right, we're attaching, like して とか, or 食べて とか, right? We're attaching it there. And then it will come to mean somebody is doing for me. Someone's doing an action that I appreciate. It's for my benefit. So here we have 妻が料理してくれる. My wife cooks for me, right? And for example, if we had a 私 in the sentence, right? I, me, it would probably be 私に料理してくれる, right? Because my wife does the action, 妻が right? Who does it? My wife does it. Who does she do it for? 私にしてくれる. She does it for me. てくれてありがとう or てくれてありがとうございます. So this is using that same てくれる that we just saw. And when we put that くれる also in the て form, we can attach a thank you, right? So we're saying thank you for doing that for me, right? Here we have 料理してくれてありがとう. Thank you for cooking for me. てもらう. So this is the same もらう that we saw before, which means to receive. And in this case, it's like we're receiving an action that we requested be done on our behalf. So it's like asking someone to do for me, and then they actually do it. So here we have 母に料理してもらった. So I got my mom to cook for me, right? So the difference between this and てくれる, for example, is that てくれる implies that the person, haha, did it sort of on their own accord. Like they just were like, oh, I'm going to do this for you. You know, haha が私に料理してくれた. You know, my mom cooked for me. Wow, that's so kind of her. But in this case, I am like the instigator. I'm like, Mom, would you cook for me? And she's like, fine. So we have 母に料理してもらった. I got her to cook for me. て meaning because. So you've probably seen て be used before to mean sequence. You know, like it'll be like, I got home and then I took a shower. But in this case, we can also use て to give reasons for things. You know, we're saying because of this, as a natural consequence, this also happened. Or, you know, like, then I did this because of that. So here we have 風邪をひいて休みます. I'm staying home because I caught a cold, right? So because I caught a cold, naturally, I'm gonna stay home. So here we're using the て form in a verb, but we can also use it with adjectives, not adjectives, and nouns. ても, even if. So we're saying, even if this is the case, I'm going to do something else. It's like, before how we saw て shows sort of like a natural cause and effect of I got sick, therefore I rest, I stay home. This is, you know, even though this thing happened, this obstacle is in my way, I'm still going to, you know, soldier on. I'm going to pick the thing that I want to do regardless of what happens here. So we have 試験に落ちても諦めません. Even if I fail the exam, I won't give up, right? So compare this to the example we saw earlier with て. So we saw 風邪をひいて休みます, right? So because I got sick, I will stay home. For ても, for example, we could say 風邪をひいても, even if I catch a cold, 休みません. I will not stay home. So even though this is the case, I'm not going to do what's expected, I'm going to do something else. なくてもいい. There's no need to blank, right? 靴を脱がなくてもいいです. There's no need to take off your shoes, right? So 靴を脱ぐ, and then if we want to say don't take off, we say 脱がない. And then to create this form, we turn that ない into なくて, right? We put it into the て form. So we get 脱がなくてもいい. So you don't have to do it. There's no necessity for it. なくてもいい. ないでください. Please don't. So here we have the ending of a plain negative verb, right? So it's please don't do verb. It's the opposite of what you've probably seen before, which is てください. Like て form of a verb. してください. Please do verb. This is ないでください. Please don't do verb. In this case, we have 写真を撮らないでください. Please don't take pictures, right? The ない form of 撮る, 撮らない, でください. てみる. Try and see how it goes. See how you like it. See how it works out. See how it is. This will be verb て form 見る. So here we have 寿司を食べてみる. Want to try some sushi, right? So maybe the implication here is that you've never tasted sushi before, or maybe you don't really like sushi, or maybe there's a new kind of sushi and you and your friend went to go eat some, right? So the implication is, you know, we're going to try this and then see how it is. てすみません. So this is, I'm sorry for blank. right? So it's I'm sorry for doing something, or I'm sorry that something is the case because of me, or that kind of implication of regret for one's actions and wanting to apologize. Here we have 遅れてすみませんでした. I'm sorry for being late. So this is what we did, and this shows that we're sorry, right? So you can say てすみません or てすみませんでした. Maybe if it's something that's like already come to pass, you know, like I'm sorry I was late yesterday. 遅れてすみませんでした. てよかった. てよかったです. So this is I'm glad that something happened, or something is the case. So, あなたに出会えてよかった. So, I'm glad I got to meet you, right? So, here's the thing that we're happy about, and this is how we express that happiness. てしまう or てしまいました. This is regrettably, or, you know, completely, totally, I did an action, and I feel bad about it. Here we have ケーキを全部一人で食べてしまいました. Unfortunately, I ate the whole cake by myself. And now I feel bad, you know, because nobody else got to eat any, right? So I did this completely. I ate the whole cake. And now I feel bad. So we'll say, unfortunately, regrettably, oh boy. 手置く, to do something in advance, right? So let's say I'm planning to do something. And in order to do that thing, I do some prep work. Sometimes you'll also hear toku in the spoken form. So it'll be like しておく, しとく, right? So しておく, しとく means the same thing. It's just kind of the te and the o get smashed together to become to. So クッキーを作るからオーブンをつけておく. So this is I'm going to make cookies, right? クッキーを作るから. So because I'm going to make cookies, I'll turn the oven on in advance, right? So オーブンをつけておく, right? So つけておく. I will do it in advance. てある. This means something has been done and stays that way. So the implication is that someone did something, an unnamed person, you know, like for example, I put a book on the desk and then I leave the room and then somebody else comes in and they're like, a book has been placed on the desk, you know? It basically describes a state of something with a bit of an implication that it was previously acted on by somebody. So here we have 机の上に本が置いてあります. A book has been placed on the desk. Or, in other words, a book is on the desk. You can also use it to describe things like メモが書いてあります, right? So like a memo has been written. You know, there is a written memo here. And the implication is that we know that somebody had to have written the memo because memos don't just materialize on their own. And that's why we use that te aru. Transitive and intransitive verbs. So transitive is when somebody makes an action happen, right? It's an actor, a person who can exert will, or, you know, an animal or anything that is able to do things on its own, exerts that will onto an object, right? So for example, we have ボールを落とした. I dropped the ball, right? So here, what's not written here is 私は, right? Because we usually omit the subject. But it's implied that I am exerting my will onto the ball to make it drop, right? I'm holding the ball, I drop the ball. A actor is in the sentence, it's in the situation. And that's why the situation happens. With intransitive verbs, we can describe things that happen on their own. You know, like ボールが落ちた. The ball fell, right? The ball, you know, because of gravity, just fell on its own. Nobody had nobody like acted on it, right? And so that's our difference between transitive and intransitive verbs. A lot of verbs, you know, like for example, here we have otosu and ochiru. They come in these kinds of pairs, where it'll be one of them you'll use in the case of transitive, in the case of somebody acting on it. You know, we'll see that particle o. And then a different form of the verb, ochiru, will be used when it's intransitive, right? So we have ga ochiru. Transitive and intransitive verbs will have different meanings when they're added to teiru. We talked before about those transitivity pairs, right? So it's a transitive verb and its intransitive equivalent. For example, we have akeru and aku, right? So akeru, if it's akeru, we have to say something o akeru, right? Because it's somebody is exerting will on something else. So here we get mado o akeru, for example, and that would be I'll open the window. And then when we have aketeiru, it implies that I'm in the process of opening the window. It's an action in progress, right? Like we saw before, gohan o tabeteiru. I am eating food. It is happening right now. Now, when we take that same verb, but it's intransitive form, the meaning becomes slightly different. We get mado ga aiteiru. This means the window is open. It describes a state of being, right? So because there's nobody here acting on the window, it's describing the state of the window, right? So here we have, I'm opening the window. And then here we have, the window is open. Tari tari suru. Do things like blank and blank. This is how we list examples of actions, right? So we might have seen before things like the particle ya, where it's you list examples of nouns, but the list isn't limited to just the ones you're saying. This is the same, but with actions, with verbs. 週末はゲームをしたり、本を読んだりする. On weekends, I play games, read books, and such. So with this form, the implication is that we didn't only play games and read books, we also did some other things that we just aren't mentioning here. It's a list of examples. The way that we get this form is we take the past short form of the verbs that go before ri. So in this case, it's geimu o suru, right? So suru will become shita. Shita, I did. So we get geimu o shitari. Here we have hon o yomu. Yomu becomes yonda, which is why we get yondari, right? So yondari suru. Then the overall conjugation of the phrase is reliant on suru. So in order to form this pattern, we know that these two are always going to be in past tense. But for example, this suru we could change also to past tense. We could say, 先週の週末はゲームをしたり、本を読んだりした. So that would be last weekend, I did things such as playing games and reading books, right? Because once we conjugate the suru, the whole phrase becomes past tense. She. This is how we list reasons for something. あの店は安いし、美味しいし、好きです. I like that restaurant because it's cheap and delicious. So here, the thing that we're trying to justify, the thing that we're giving reasons for, is that we like it, right? So we're saying, I like it because, and then here are reasons that come before she. So it's 安いし, it's cheap. 美味しいし, it's delicious. And that's why I like it. Now, when we use she, we will use the plain form of these e adjectives, right? So it's 安いし, 美味しいし. And then if we have nouns or na adjectives, we'll say da. So 綺麗だし, 学生だし. And then for verbs, it'll be the plain form. So it'll be like 食べるし, 読めるし, 読んだし, など. So this is basically the Japanese equivalent of etc. You use it at the end of a short list to mean, such examples like this and this, etc. There are more examples of the same kind you could give, but there's no need to give them all. Yuka sensei wa ベトナム、アメリカなど、いろんな国に行ったことがあります。Yuka sensei has been to many different countries such as Vietnam, the US, etc. Right? So here's the two examples we give, Vietnam, America. And then by using nado, we're implying that it's not just those two, there's more. Te hoshi or te hoshi desu. I want you to blank. This is how you express the wish or the desire that somebody will do a certain action. In this case, we have sara o aratte hoshi. I want you to do the dishes. Now, this is different from a direct command such as te kudasai, right? Please do. Because with te kudasai, you're speaking from that commanding level. You're saying, oh, please do this. and you have ma. Probably a good reason for saying so, like, please fasten your seatbelt. But when you use te hoshi, it's more like saying, I want you to do this. And then that still gives the hearer the chance to say, I will do it, I agree, or I can't do it. Yasui or yasui desu. It's easy to blank. So we use this connected to a verb in stem form or mas form. Basically, you take what would be a verb in mas form, tokimasu, and then cut off mas. So we get toki. And then when we attach yasui, it means it is easy to do that verb. So we have here, この問題は解きやすいです. This problem is easy to solve. にくい or にくいです. It's hard to blank. It's hard to do a verb. This is like the opposite of yasui, right? この問題は解きにくいです. This problem is hard to solve. すぎる or すぎます. It's too blank, or I did blank too much. You can use this with adjectives and verbs to describe when something is too much a certain way that it's not good. So here we have このワンピースは高すぎる. So this dress is too expensive. Here we're using an e adjective and the e gets dropped. So from takai, we get taka. Taka sugiru. With na adjectives, we drop the na. So for example, if it was kantan na, it would become kantan sugiru. And then for verbs, we use the stem form or mas form. So if we had taberu, it would become tabe, and then we'd say tabe sugiru. So tabe sugimashita, I ate too much. Nani nani kata, how to do a verb, or the way of doing a verb. So we take the mas form or stem form of a verb by dropping mas and adding kata to get the way of doing, right? So yarikata, shikata, tabekata, norikata. Jitensha no norikata o oshiete kudasai. Please teach me how to ride a bike. Now, an interesting thing to note about this is that in your how to do phrase, like jitensha no norikata or kanji no yomikata, when there's a noun, in place of the usual particle you might use with the verb, right, like hon o yomeru or jitensha ni noru, that particle is going to be replaced with no, right? Because this phrase is actually becoming like a noun, right? Because it's the way of doing something. That's a noun. So it'll be jitensha no norikata, kanji no yomikata. Koto ni naru. It ended up that, or it was decided that. So this is the way that you express that, a decision was made, but you had nothing to do with the decision, right? Like it was decided that next year's trip will be to Hokkaido, or it was decided that from now on, nobody can ride on a bike with two people. So here we have 来週出張することになった. It was decided that I'll be going on a business trip next week. So, for example, your boss, people above you, people other than you, decided what you are going to do. Now, the way that we form this is this verb in plain form followed by koto. So here we have 出張すること. 食べることになった. やめることになった. ことにする. I decided that, or we decided that. This implies that the speaker was directly involved in deciding what happens or what to do. So here we have カフェで昼ご飯を食べることにした. We decided to eat lunch at the cafe. Again, we have the verb in the plain form followed by ことにした. We decided to eat lunch at the cafe. ことにしている. ことにしています. I make a habit of, or I make it a rule to. So this is you're explaining that, you are constantly working to continuously do something. Like, for example, going running, right? It's like it's a personal habit you are actively working to keep up. 毎日走ることにしている. I make a habit of going running every day. ようにする. This is to make an effort to, or to try to, right? You're putting an effort to make sure something happens or to do something a certain way. So here we have 明日遅刻しないようにしてください. So please try not to be late tomorrow, right? Sometimes you'll even hear the suru part dropped. It'll just be nani nani shinai yoni or nani nani suru yoni, right? So if they want you to do it, it's suru or, the plain form. So taberu, kuru. And if they want you to not do the thing, it'll be negative. So it'll be shinai yoni, konai yoni, yoni naru. So this is, I've come to blank. So like, I've come to develop a certain habit. I've come to behave in a certain way. Or I've become able to. And this will usually be using the potential form. But so let's look at the examples. もっと野菜を食べるようになった. So I've come to eat more vegetables than I used to, right? So maybe I didn't eat vegetables before, but now the situation is that I eat vegetables. 日本語が話せるようになった. So here we see the potential form, right? 話せる. I can speak. So I've become able to speak Japanese. 何々にする. So this is to decide on something. Like if you have, for example, two options and you say, I'm going to choose this one. 何々にする. Here we have お茶とジュースとどっちがいい? Do you want tea or juice, right? So we have options and then we're going to decide. ジュースにする. I'll have juice. Adjective する. So this is be adjective or make something adjective, make it more adjective. So the way that this works is that if it's a na adjective, na will become ni. So for example, we have shizuka, which is, shizuka na will become shizuka ni suru. And then for e adjectives, it'll be the e turns into ku. So oki becomes okiku. Here we have 静かにしてください. Please be quiet. 音楽を大きくした. I made the music louder, right? We made the thing into the adjective. ので, because. So this works a lot in the same way as the word kara, right? 何々から何々. Because of the thing I said before, that's why I can't do blah or la la la. Whatever you're trying to give a reason for. Now, the difference between this and kara is that this is more formal and the treatment of na adjectives and nouns is just slightly different. So first to go over what's similar, we have a plain form of a noun. For example, here we have nakushita, right? I lost. We can also use the plain form of an e adjective. So, kawaii no de. Now, for nouns and na adjectives, it's going to be na no de. So it'll be byoki na no de, right? Or kirei na no de, right? So you'll put na before no. 財布をなくしたので買い物ができません. I can't go shopping because I lost my wallet, right? This is the reason. 財布をなくした. Because I lost my wallet, I can't go shopping. んです or no です or no. This expression is used to show emphasis on what you're saying or what you're asking, and it can be also used to soften an expression, try to say something more politely, usually when you're making requests. Now, the way that it works with asking questions and answering questions is that it has the implication of, I want the answer to this question. And then when you give the answer, you're like, this is the answer to the question. Sort of here, like if we were to look at this pattern, どうして来なかったの? Why didn't you show up? Right? So it's like, this implies that the person is like, I really want to know why you didn't show up. What the heck? What happened? They're seeking an explanation. And so then the person can then respond, 病気だったの. Like I was sick and that's why I didn't come. 病気だったんです. I was sick and that's why I didn't come. That's how the des or no des or no form can be used in conversation like that. Now, the way that it can be used to soften expressions can be seen here. ちょっとお願いがあるんです. So this is, I have a bit of a favor to ask, right? So when we use this, when we're, looking for requests or saying that we want to do something, we want somebody to do something for us. Like, nani nani shitain desu ga, like, I want to do this, but, can you help me? It's a way of just sort of like pattering off in a way that comes across as polite to the listener. Now, the way that conjugation works here is similar to what we saw with no de, because, right? So it's plain form verbs, plain form e adjectives, i no. And then for na adjectives and nouns, it'll be nano. So it'll be gakusei nano, are you a student? Or genki nan desu, I am well, I'm healthy. No ni. So this grammar pattern has two distinct usages. One of them is even though. So this expresses frustration about something. So it's like, even though I worked really hard, it didn't work out. Or even though, I put in so much effort, nobody recognized it, or something like that. It's an expression of dissatisfaction. And then this version of no ni describes in order to do something. So it's in order to do this thing, it takes time, effort, This thing is required in order to do this. So look at the first one. We have ケーキを作ったのに誰も食べてくれない. Even though I made a cake, no one will eat it, right? So even though I put in the effort to make a cake, nobody will eat it. Nobody will do me that favor of tasting my cake that I put my blood, sweat, and tears into. It's that kind of expression. And then here we have ケーキを作るのに時間がかかる. It takes time to make a cake, right? So we're saying in order to do this, it requires this. まで and までに. So this means until a certain thing, or by, a certain thing. So the difference between まで and までに is that まで just means, until this, just pretty much on the surface. And then までに is like a strict deadline. It's like, if it's past this deadline, it's no good. It's no good. It's a no-go. You can't do it kind of thing. It's like the deadline has to be protected. 会議は3時までです. So the meeting is until 3, right? So this is just describing that, maybe the meeting starts, whatever time it starts at, and then this is how long it'll go for. It'll end this time. But this is not exactly saying, like, if it doesn't end at 3, there's going to be consequences or anything like that. It's just like, this is the planned time that it should go until. And then, 宿題は明日までに出してください. Please submit your assignment by tomorrow. So here we see までに. That means that you have to submit the homework by tomorrow, or, you'll get in trouble, or, you'll get a bad grade. より, more than. First, let's look at the example. バスケよりサッカーが好きです. I like soccer more than basketball. So the way that this works is that the thing that you like less is the word that comes directly before より. バスケより. This means that whatever other thing comes in the sentence, you like it more than you like basketball, right? So in this case, it's soccer. I like soccer more than basketball. バスケよりサッカーが好きです. ほどない. So something is not as much as something else, right? It's not as good, or it's not as expensive, or it's not as whatever. Now this is like the opposite of より, right? We saw that it was thing, like, for example, noun より. It's, that noun is what is less than, and then the other thing is what's more than. But in this case, it's, for example, noun is the thing that's best, and something else is not as good as it. So here we have, 私の日本語はネイティブほどではない. So my Japanese is not as good as a native speaker's, right? Of course. So we have ネイティブほど, right? So as good as a native speaker, it is not. ほどではない. まだていない. I haven't done blank yet. So this uses the teiru form of a verb. It's like the state of being or an action in progress. And then negating it, it's basically saying, that has not been done yet. It is not the case that. So here we have 宿題はまだやっていない. It is in the state that it is not done. It has not been done. I haven't done my homework yet, right? From まだ we get yet or still. So it still has not been done. まだていない. もうた. So this is already did, right? This ta is meant to represent the past form, the 過去形. So 宿題はもうやった. もうやりました. もうしました. I already did my homework, right? も is like it's already. And then by putting in the past, we know that it has already been completed. It's done. It's like the opposite of まだていない. I haven't done yet. I have already done. には. So this is a set of the particles ni and wa put together. And it can sometimes express, a special quality in the thing that you're describing. Like, 東京にはたくさん店があります. Like you're trying to say, as opposed to maybe the countryside, Tokyo is special because it has this thing, right? As opposed to just saying Tokyo ni, where the implication would just be you're stating the fact that there are shops in Tokyo, but you don't really care about anything else. There's no comparison. So here we have 彼女には特別な能力があります. She has a special ability that most people don't have, right? So we're trying to draw attention to the fact that this, subject has something special about it. Like we're bringing attention to not just what we're saying about it, but the fact that this is the thing that has that quality, right? So it's like other people don't have that quality, but this specific subject does, right? Everywhere in Japan doesn't have a lot of shops, but Tokyo specifically does. Number mo. As many as blank. Here the speaker is showing that they think they have a large number of something. With regard to the number, they think it's big. 家にゲームは200個もある. I have as many as 200 games at my house, right? So they think that 200 games is a lot of games. I love kanji! Shikanai. So this is a way of expressing you only have something. Like you have a small amount of something. You think of it as a small amount. Or you can say something is all there is to do. There's no other option. So here we have 本は2冊しかない. I only have 2 books. So from the speaker's perspective, 2 books is not a lot. It's few. 病気だから休むしかない. So because I'm sick, all I can do is rest. There's no other option. Question word でも. Any blank. So if it's 何でも, anything. どこでも, anywhere. 誰でも, anybody, right? So it's the question word plus でも to go from meaning, what, where, who, to meaning anyone, anywhere, anything. どこでもいいから食べに行きましょう. Anywhere is fine, so let's go eat. どこでも. Question word も followed by ない. This has the meaning of no one, nowhere, nothing, right? You pair it with the question word to get the meaning that you intend. So if it's 誰も, it's nobody, no one. どこにも, not anywhere, nowhere. 何も, nothing, not anything. So here we have ここには誰も住んでいない. Nobody lives here. It's the opposite of what we saw with でも, right? 誰でも, anyone, anybody. 誰もいない. 誰もない. Nobody. ながら. So this is do one action while doing another action. This works by adding the stem form of a verb to nagara, right? So here we have kiki nagara, kikimasu, kiki nagara. 音楽を聴きながら勉強します。I listen to music while studying. Now, there's a slight implication that the main action you're doing comes after nagara, right? So it's like the main thing you're doing is studying, and then the secondary action is listening to music, right? It's like you have to study, you can't really do anything about that, but to make it more entertaining, you put on some music as well. 間に. So this is while I'm doing some action, something happens, right? An event occurs while I'm in the middle of doing an action. So here we have, シャワーを浴びている間に電話が鳴りました。The phone rang while I was in the shower, right? So I'm doing the action of showering, I'm in the middle of that, and then the event of the phone ringing occurs. Noun ばかり. So this is only noun. 甘いものばっかり食べています。I only eat sweets, right? So it's only noun. 中 or 10. This is how you describe during a certain noun, during a certain event or a certain time, in the middle of a certain thing, a certain event, a certain time. So, for example, you might say 授業中, 営業中, 一日中, right? So it's during this time, this noun. 授業中は集中できない. I can't focus during class. Mama. Leaving something in a certain state. We form this using the ta form or past tense short form with mama to describe something that we did and then left it that way. So we have 電気をつけたまま出かけた. I left the lights on when I went out, right? I turned the lights on, 電気をつけた. そのまま置いた, right? I left it that way. So it's つけたまま出かけた. ないで. So this is do something without doing something else. So we have 眠らないで一晩中ゲームをしていた. I played games all night without going to sleep. So the thing you don't do comes in the ない form, right? 眠らないで. And then here's the thing that you do, right? So you can also use it to say, 雨が降ってるのに傘を持っていかないで出かけました. So, even though it's raining, I went out without taking an umbrella. 前. So, doing before. So we could say, 何々の前に, so noun の前に, or verb 前に, right? So it'll be like, 始まる前に. Here we have, 試合が始まる前に練習しましょう. Let's practice before the match starts. 何々前に. あと, after. So it's after a certain event, a certain thing, I do something else. So, 働いた後でリラックスしたい. I want to relax after work, right? So verb plain form, 後, or noun の後. てから. So this is just after doing something. As soon as I do something. The implication is that, like, as soon as this event ends, I will do the next thing without much delay. There's not much of a pause in between these two things that I'm doing. 結果が分かってから連絡する. I'll contact you as soon as I get the results, right? So this is like, I got the results, boom, I'm going to call you and tell you about it, right? Rather than there being an implication of, a long pause in between. Like, oh, I got the results, and then I'm going to wait 3 days and then call you. No, it's happening just after that. Toki. This is how we express a certain occasion, a certain event, or a certain time when something happens. So it'll be like, when I was a kid, when I go to the store, when I went on a trip, when I was young, right? So we're saying, when this was the case, or this is the case, then, and then we describe something about it. So here we have, 学生の時、よく遊びました. So this is, when I was a student, 学生の時, I spent lots of time playing. よく遊びました. So here we have noun の時, when I was noun. We could also have いい adjective 時, in that case, 若い時, So, when you're young. And then if it's a na adjective, it would be na adjective na toki. So like hima na toki, when I'm free, when I'm bored. Now with verbs, the conjugation is going to change depending on the second clause that comes after toki. So for example, if what happens in your first clause, your toki clause, the one that comes before toki, happens before what happens in B clause, then that A clause should be in the past tense, right? Because it's like, before this event happens, this event already occurred, right? So here in this example, we see just that. 旅行から帰ってきたとき、眠りたい. So I want to sleep after we got back from the trip. After this getting back from the trip has occurred, then I'm gonna, get in bed and sleep because I'm tired. It's exhausting. So this event can't occur, this sleeping can't occur until the trip is over, is what's happening in the context of this sentence, right? Now, since, we've already come back, that action has been completed, it's in the past tense. Now, if, for example, B clause happens before A clause, then A will be in the present tense. Like, for example, 旅行に行くとき、よく準備ましょう. So let's prepare well for when we go on a trip. So the preparation for a trip happens before going on the actual trip itself, right? It's like you pack your bags, and you call the airport, you get your tickets, you do whatever, you book the flight, I don't know. But so essentially B is happening before A happens, before A can be completed. Therefore, A will be in the present tense. Ta-da! If, then, something. So if this happens, if theoretically something were to happen, then this. Or when this happened, then this happened, right? So it can be used for consequence, like sequence of events. And it can also be used to talk about theoretical situations. So here we have 困ったら助けるよ. If you have trouble, then I'll help you, right? So theoretically, if you run into a problem, I'll be there to help, right? And we're using the past plain form. ただどうですか? So this is where we can use ただ to make a polite suggestion, like, how about doing something? Or what if you tried something, right? So it's like we're using that theoretical condition of ただ to say, if you were to do this, what do you think? How would it go? Well, maybe give it a try. Here we have 先生に聞いたらどうですか? How about you ask the teacher, right? So why don't you try doing this thing, right? And it's the plain past form, だ. 聞いたらどうですか? But if a condition is true, then something. This is very much the like if-then true or false statements that you might have had to study in like middle school, high school, whatever, where it's, if this is true, therefore this is true, but if this is false, therefore this is false. It's that line of logic. So basically, the thing that comes before ba, that is taken as a given, right? So it's saying, this is the case. And if this is the case, therefore this. If this is not the case, therefore that will not happen. Here we have, ペンがなければ貸すよ. I'll lend you a pen if you don't have one. Right? So, if you don't have a pen, ペンがなければ, if that statement is true, you don't have a pen, in that case, I will lend you one. But if this statement is false, ペンがある, right? If you were to have a pen, then there would be no need for me to lend you one. You already have one, right? So it essentially means, that if this is the case, and only if this is the case, then this will happen. If this is not the case, then this will not happen. ばよかった. So this is, I should have done something. It would have been better if I did something. It's an expression of regret for what, you haven't done, what you wish you had done. Here we have, もっと勉強すればよかった. I should have studied more. It would have been better if I'd studied more. なら. So this is very similar to ba. It has that meaning of if something is the case, then this will happen. But here we are able to use it with things like nouns and adjectives as well. So we'll have 英語なら読めるよ. If it's in English, I can read it, right? So if the case is that it's in English, then sure I can read it. But if it's not in English, I can't, right? If it's true, it's true. If it's false, it's false. 暇なら手伝ってくれる? If you're free, could you help me? If you're free, please help me. If you're not free, don't worry about it. Pull. When blank happens, blank happens. So this describes cause and effect, or a mechanism, a natural consequence. It's like, when you push this button, this will definitely happen. Or, when I do this, this will naturally follow, right? Like, if you go out in the rain, then you'll get wet, right? So it's like, there's an obvious line of, if this happens, then this should happen. It'll definitely happen. ボタンを押すと音が鳴る. When you press the button, a sound plays, right? Because that's the mechanism of how it's designed to work, right? So it's push the button, naturally, the sound will play because it's designed to. 遠い. So this is, I hope that blank happens. 試験に合格できるといいね. I hope you pass the test, right? So we're expressing a hope, a wish for somebody or something. We can also express it for ourselves, but in that case, we might say something like, できるといいんですが, right? To just sort of soften the fact that we're like making a strong hope about ourselves. And then also, when we're hoping about things that are sort of out of our control, like something that we're not actively choosing, it's more like up to fate, we'll usually use the potential form, right? So here we have 合格できる, right? So that's, we won't know for sure. It's not in our control exactly whether we pass or fail. Part of it is up to, just how well we do on the exam. How hard the exam is. It's sort of out of our hands. Which is why it'll be 合格できるといい. As opposed to something that's like, 仕事を辞めるといい. Like, I hope you quit your job, right? I hope you're able to do that for yourself. That is something in your control that you are making the choice to do. Modifying nouns. This is when we use a phrase to describe a noun. Like, the bag I bought yesterday, or a life I can be satisfied with, right? So here's the noun, that's how we're describing it. In Japanese, it comes backwards, right? So it's, here's the way we're describing it, and this is what we're describing, right? 昨日買ったカバンが可愛い. The bag that I bought yesterday is cute. 満足できる人生を手に入れたい. I want to lead a life I can be satisfied with. So it's phrase, then noun. という or て in casual form can be used to describe the details behind a noun or a person. So like, for example, we have 明日の会議を延期するという話をした. We spoke about postponing tomorrow's meeting, right? 何の話をした? What conversation do we have? We had a conversation about postponing the meeting tomorrow. Here we have it in the casual form where we have 上田くんって何歳? So about Ueda, how old is he, right? So we're seeking information related and about Ueda. Embedded questions. So this is when a question is part of a larger statement or a larger question. Like here we have 授業は何時から始まるかわかる? This わかる is a question on its own right. It's like, do you know? Do you know this information? And then the question of what time does class starts, that's embedded within the sentence. So it becomes, do you know? Question number 1. What time class starts? Question number 2, right? So this is the embedded question, and it ends with ka, right? It's marked with that particle. Here we have 彼が来るかどうか知りません. I don't know whether he'll come or not. So when we have a yes or no question, yes, he'll come, no, he won't, we use かどうか. And so here we're saying, I don't know. 知りません. I don't know whether he will come or not, right? So that's our embedded question. 何々を知らない? 知りません? 知りませんか? So, we know the verb 知る as to know things, to know people, for example, but you can also use it about, like objects, for example, and in that case, it'll mean like, have you seen where I put something? Like, where did it go? It's lost. Can you help me find it, right? 机の上にあった書類を知りませんか? Have you seen the documents that were on the desk, right? So in this context, we know that what we're asking for is not, whether you know of the existence of the documents, it's the location of the documents, right? It's like, where did they go? Do you know what happened to them? Potential form. Can do a verb. Are able to do a verb. For example, here we have 日本語が読める. Can you read Japanese? Right? So here we have that verb 読む gets changed to 読める. For example, if it was 食べる, it would be 食べられる. Here we have 日本語を読むことができます. ことができる, right? Verb ことができる is another way of expressing the ability to do something, right? Because it's using suru's potential form. Suru becomes できる. Kuru becomes 来られる. 日本語を読むことができます. I can read Japanese. 見える, 見られる. So this is can see. And we're going to talk about the difference between these two verbs, which mean be able to see. 曇っているから太陽が見えない. I can't see the sun because it's cloudy. 見える, the verb, is used to mean that you're able to see something like naturally without making any effort. It's there so you can see it. 見られる is talking about if you want to make the effort to see something, you're able to. Like here, 美術館で絵が見られる. You can see paintings at the art museum. So in this sentence, it's implied that, the listener wants to go see paintings. It's like, where can I see paintings? Where can I accomplish that desire? I can do it at the art museum, right? So that's where I can see them. 見られる. Whereas in this case, you're not making any effort to see what you're seeing. It's just about whether it's physically possible to see it or not. 聞こえる, 聞ける. Can hear. This is the same principle as what we saw with 見える and 見られる. One is something you can hear just by happenstance. It's physically, you're able to hear it. And the other is you're seeking out something that you want to hear, right? And under this circumstance, you're able to. 電車の音が聞こえた. I could hear the sound of the train, right? I wasn't putting in any effort, like I wasn't trying hard to hear the train. It just happened. And then here we have あの曲はラジオで聴ける. You can hear that song on the radio, right? So it's like, I want to listen to this song. Where can I listen to it? I can listen to it on the radio. Volitional form. So this is let's or shall we do something. It's expressing will. Now, we've already seen this with ましょう, but now we're going to talk about the short form. ご飯を食べに行こう. Let's go eat, right? We're expressing our will to go eat. Now, because this is a group one verb, it becomes 行こう, right? It goes to O sound. For する, it becomes しよう. And for group two, like 食べる, it'll become 食べよう. Again, so we see those よ coming out in する with しよ and 食べる with 食べよ. And then with group one verbs, it'll be O sound. So 行く becomes 行こ becomes 行こう. 勉強しようか? Shall we study? Volitional と思っている or と思う. This expresses our plans and intentions to do things. So, 大学に進学しようと思っています. I'm planning to go to college. 本でも読もうと思う. I think I'll read a book or something. So the difference between と思っている and と思う is that と思っている implies forethought. It's something we've been thinking about doing for a long time. Whereas と思う is something we just thought of in the moment. But either way, we're talking about something that we're going to do. Passive form. So somebody was acted on by somebody, or something was acted on by something. It could also mean something was done. 先生に褒められた. I was praised by my teacher, right? So my teacher did the praising. I was praised by them. 先生に褒められた. I was praised. 壁に文字が書かれた. Letters were written on the wall, right? So it's like the wall was acted upon by somebody, so now the letters are written there, right? So that's how we can describe how objects are acted upon. Something was done. Causative form. Now this is someone made someone do something. Or depending on the context, it could also be somebody let somebody do something. 娘を早めに寝かせた. I made my daughter go to bed early, right? My daughter doesn't want to go to bed, but I made her. And the way that we can see this especially is by the usage of the particle o, right? The particle o will be used when we're talking about being forced to do something, right? But sometimes when we use a transitive verb, for example, the transitive verb has to be paired with its object using the particle o. So in that case, we will then revert to using ni. 娘に家に友達を招待させた. Here we have, I let my daughter invite her friends over. So here you can see the verb 招待 is taking up the usage of the particle o. And then ni, which can be used here with I let my daughter invite her friends, right? Because it's the daughter wants to invite her friends. So we know that this is a permissive action. We're allowing her to do it. Now with permissive actions, you can either use ni or o. Causative form てくれる or てください is how we express that we want somebody to let us do something. For example, 私に話を聞かせてくれませんか? Would you let me hear your story? Right? So it's like, please let me hear what you have to say. 私にやらせてください. Please let me do it, right? We're saying like, I want the responsibility, allow me to do it. Causative passive. So this form combines the causative and passive forms together in order to create the meaning that somebody was made to perform an action by somebody else. Earlier with causative, we saw that somebody is being forced to perform an action, but in the case of causative passive, the perspective shifts. So in causative, we're talking about how, the parent forced the child to go to sleep, right? And so the child is doing the action of going to sleep and the parent made them. But in causative passive, we're talking from the other person's perspective, the person who was forced. So now it'll be the child was forced to go to sleep by the parent, right? So it's the child is being forced to do an action, and because they're being forced to do it, it's passively happening to them. So I was, right? Passive form. Even in English, I was forced. Rather than, someone forced me, it's I was forced. 親に勉強をさせられた. I was forced to study by my parent. 親に by my parent. させる is the causative, right? So so the parent forced the child to do the studying. And then られる, that's passive. So the child was forced to study. 彼女は友達に文句を聞かせられた. She was forced, by her friend, 友達に, to listen to complaints. So, 文句を聞かせられた. 聞かせる, we saw, is the causative form. So it's to force to listen. And then られた is she was forced to listen, right? Because it's from her perspective. 彼女は友達に文句を聞かせられた。She was forced to listen to complaints by her friend. 敬語 honorific language. We use it to raise up the people in a station above us, talking about, respected parents, bosses. So here we have a list of verbs that when used in the respectful form, have a different verb assigned to them, like a respectful verb, a keigo verb. So, iru, like existing, kuru and iku will all fall under the category of irasharu, irashaimasu. So, you basically have to use the context of a sentence to figure out which of these three is being described. Taberu and nomu will both be described as meshiagaru, right? This is the polite way of saying to eat something or to drink something. Next, we have kureru. The polite form of kureru is kudasaru. You'll see it in words like kudasai. Morao becomes itadaku. You'll see it in things like itadakimasu. Suru becomes nasaru. Miru becomes goran ni naru. And iu becomes osharu. Continuing on with keigo, when we use teiru, we can replace it with te irasharu or irashaimasu. And for any other verb, you can take the stem form and place it between o and ni naru. Here are examples. 社長が取引先と話していらっしゃいます。The CEO is speaking with our trading partners, right? ていらっしゃる。上司はお帰りになりました。The boss went home, right? 帰り、お帰りになる。お or go ください。Please something. This is a more polite way of asking people to do something. So, we know te kudasai. So like, for example, matte kudasai. Please wait. This is a more polite version of that. So we get shosho omachi kudasai. Please wait for a moment. Shosho is like the more polite form of chotto. Chotto matte kudasai. Please wait. Shosho omachi kudasai. Please wait. Te itadaku. This is how we can make a polite request. We already went over te morao, which is how we say someone does for me. Now we can pair this with, for example, a question particle in order to make a request that someone do something for us. この資料を確認していただけませんか? Could you please check these for me? てくださる. This is the same thing as te kureru, except it's polite. Someone did something for me. 上司が資料を確認してくださいました。My boss checked the documents for me. よろしいでしょうか? Is it all right? So, よろしい is the more polite version of i or yoi, and でしょう is the more polite version of des. So, instead of saying, いいですか or いいんですか, if you say よろしいでしょうか, it's even more polite. Here we have お時間はよろしいでしょうか? Do you have time? In other words, is it all right if I use I use up your time right now, I take up your time? いかがでしょうか? So this is a way of asking, is it all right? Or offering something to someone, like, would you like? Here we have, 明日でいかがでしょうか? Is tomorrow all right? 飲み物はいかがでしょうか? Would you like something to drink? And that's all the grammar points we have for today. Good luck on the exam!
Shun です。この漢字はシュッシュッシュッ素早いという意味です。
Hi everyone, welcome to lesson 26. 第26課。
Hey! 皆さん、仕事中の電話対応の日本語を一緒に完璧にしていきましょう。はい、じゃあ早速ルールですね。
今日は一覧
というラーメン屋さんに来ました。日本にいる人だったらこの看板を見たことがあるかもしれないですね。